Lamar Hale that's here.
That's when I woke up to how important credit was. Like, that's the goal, right? Borrow money, use that money, make money. If that's real estate, cool. If that's starting a business, cool. If that's acquiring a business, cool. If that's, starting your own wood shop, cool.
If you utilize debt in the proper ways and you're utilizing it to create more opportunities for yourself, then that's how people are creating wealth. So when it came to that point, it's like, I want all the debt. Like, how do I get into more debt? Because
Did I just hear you compare us to the Michael Jordans of finance?
Yeah, completely. I would definitely say improve you, what we do as an organization, the Michael Jordan of finance. Yep. Mic drop. Now that we're here, anyone who's watching, welcome. We're out here in Project 33 Studio, and we have Lamar Hale that's here. Lamar has been someone who's been a huge role model in my life over the last recent years that I've known him, and he's been not only such an inspiration, but he's helped me grow professionally and a lot of skill sets that I have. I don't even know if I even expressed this much to you, brother, but in a way, he's also been a mentor to myself into not only learning about the financial industry and funding and credit, but just how to grow as an entrepreneur. And those type of relationships are super valuable to have. And thank you for being here with us today, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it,
rocking
man.
for sure.
Cheers.
Yes, salud.
Hell of an introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Johnny explained who I was. I do appreciate you inviting me up here, man. We made it happen. It's been a long day traveling.
Yep.
But
little short notice for this whole thing.
A little short notice, but hey, we made it work. I definitely want to come up here and support you.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been throwing events like this for a very long time, and I felt like this was a great opportunity for all of us to just provide more value out there into the world, especially with what we've been working on together for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And so yeah, this is my first time in the state of Connecticut.
Wow, congrats. Okay.
Yeah. A little chilly up here. I was prepared, but wasn't that prepared. I got off the plane at White Plains in New York, and I was like, all right, let me zip up my jacket.
Yep.
But it's nice. I like it. We drove. Your fiance took us through this nice little neighborhood with really nice houses. You see them online, and I kind of got the okay, cool. This is Connecticut. It's nice.
Yep.
Nice up here. Seems very homey and family oriented.
Yeah, the city that we're in now is a little bit different from the rest of the structure
from the drive-in.
But we're in a good pocket here.
Nice.
And we have an incredible network of people that's out here that are entrepreneurs and business owners. So I know what we're going to deliver tomorrow at the event we have, and especially with the value that you're going to provide, it's going to be very valuable to them. So
no, I'm excited, man. That's what it's all about. I have a term that I like to say, a phrase. I don't like to say it because I'd rather not be this way, but that's where you and I come in, and the people that we work with, the people we're collaborating with. But lack of financial literacy is at an all-time high, right? And that is all by design. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today because we could be here all night. But I think everyone can agree that we're not, our educational system doesn't educate us on finances, on debt, on borrowing money, on, managing and structuring your finances. It's set up for us to be a consumer society and for us to be about, material items that maybe we don't need, really don't need at all. And it's kind of, all about the Benjamins or keeping up with the Benjamins. That's the phrase, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's put people in a mindset that holds them back and doesn't allow them to really grow into the potential that they do have, right?
Completely.
So yeah, I think this is a great thing that you're doing as far as just, educating people on how they should structure their finances, educating them on the opportunities that are out there when their finances are in the position that they need to be in.
Yep.
And even past that, just understanding how things work and that you can create your own economy, if you will. You don't have to be a slave to the economy that, we're in, as long as you have the right resources, have the right knowledge, you can be disciplined, and you can, find people and mentors that have came in and done it, are a great example of it, and just follow their guidance, follow their lead, right? So.
Yep. Yeah, man, I completely agree. And I went through that myself, for many years of my life, especially with not having the foundation of financial literacy that we're not taught in society, we're not taught in schools. And I've always had an ambition to stretch and grow myself. And I was not aware at all on how important financial literacy was. If anything, there's so many things about the system that, you just even mentioned that it's not in the favor of the majority of the people.
Yeah.
And things like that always turn me off. So I always try to find ways to create more freedom for myself, and just didn't have the proper directions to do that with the best resources possible. So it wasn't until these last handful of years, especially learning from yourself, that has highly helped me elevate in any opportunity that I pursue, because I have this much more in-depth background on finances and positioning my credit, how I could access more resources, how I could bring myself much further. And yeah, man, my whole purpose as a person is to also continue delivering that to other people. If anything that has helped me win in my life or helped me progress mentally, financially, emotionally, spiritually, was the type of people I surrounded myself with. And which is why we have this event going on tomorrow, while we have Lamar that's out here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. And that's what it's about. It's one thing to be able to, set things up for yourself, take care of yourself, take care of your family. But there's another aspect that I feel like we have a duty and responsibility to, I'm not going to say force or drag or necessarily carry people along, but to also share these things with people, right? Because at the end of the day, the more people that are around us that we surround ourselves with that understand how this stuff works, how finances work, how lending works, how important your credit is, then the more opportunities that we create, not only for ourselves, but for them as well. And just that creates an overall better society.
For sure.
Right. So now I'm definitely glad to be here. I'm definitely excited to speak tomorrow, and just, try and educate and just get people on the same page and just provide as much value as possible.
Yep. And for a few years in different cities, we ran these Life Ignited events, and we used to do it every single month. And the whole purpose of it, because every single month we would fly out different experts that are professionals in their field that have a lot of success in their field, whether it was around like real estate, taxes, structuring your business, marketing. We had many different types of professionals come along. But, as I was even promoting this event, even though it was a very short amount of time that we put this whole thing together, I've been telling people, I'm like, this is probably be the most impactful event that we've ever ran. This is very tangible information that people could just walk away with and start applying to their lives right away.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And the great thing about this, Jonny, is we are representatives of what we are going to talk about and teach tomorrow, and what we have been talking about and teaching people and been working with clients on, right? Similar to you, like my background in regards to my finances isn't clean. I didn't come from a financially responsible family, but that also came from the fact that they weren't properly financially educated either.
Yep.
So it's something that I had to, live in and see my family, struggle with. And for me, I just, at the same time, I started to fall into the, this stuff's not important. Credit's not important. Borrowing money credit cards are a scam. Borrowing money is just a trap. And I had that same mindset when I was young. I thought, hey, if you're borrowing money for school, you go to college, that's great.
So way backwards on what it should be.
Yeah. So easy to borrow money for school too. But yeah, my journey is, I come from humble beginnings as well. I made some decisions and some mistakes coming fresh out of high school, getting my first credit card, not being responsible with it, spending it on, things that I probably shouldn't have been spending it on, food, going out, partying, girls, women, all that jazz. And, didn't really care to pay my bills because it's like, oh, it's just a credit card or whatever. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And then it wasn't until that
I want to ask, what was a shift for you in that scenario?
So there's a couple shifts, but the first, I guess, when I became aware of how important credit was I was working a job. I was a detailer for a pretty large car dealership, and I was like the main guy detailing all of our vehicles. I was getting paid really well for a 19-year-old. I was making anywhere between $600 to $800 a week, which doesn't sound like much money now, but back in 2013, like that was good income. And I wasn't having to pay taxes on it either because of how I was being paid. I was being paid cash, right? So that didn't last too long for the guy I was working with because he had to like start doing things, the right way. But 19 years old, making a lot of money, didn't really have too many responsibilities or bills to worry about. Still living at home with my mom. I went to college didn't work out, yada yada yada. But I was making enough money to where I wanted to go and buy myself a really nice car, right? And at that time, for me, I'm not going to say it's my ultimate, or nor was it my ultimate dream car, but it was a dream car for me at that time. And it was a 2013 or 2014 Hyundai Genesis, the coupe version, right? So for anyone that's not familiar with those cars, look it up, 2013, 2014 Hyundai Genesis coupe. They had the 4 doors that came out. Then they had the coupes that came out for the same car, but just different spec, different body. And then they had these that came out rear-wheel drive, had the turbo gauges like in the console. It was a six. Actually, that was a seven. It was either a 6 or 7 speed car.
Okay.
But it was my favorite color. I saw. My mom was working at the dealership that was selling. So this was a completely different dealership than I was at. And I just I would drive by that car every day on the way to work because the dealership down the street from where I worked. And I was like, man, that is just a badass car. And I would look so hot driving that thing. Everybody's gonna love me. And it was only it was newer. It's like $20,000 or something. I'm like, wait, this car has 400 horsepower. It's rear-wheel drive. It's a stick shift. It's my favorite color. It's got turbo gauges. You're 19. And that, and it's only 20 grand. I can afford that. I can make, what's the monthly payments, Mom? It'll probably be $400 or $500 a month. I'm like, I made that in a week. Let's do it. Unfortunately, because of those credit card decisions I made fresh out of high school, where I wasn't paying those bills, and I didn't even know that credit card went to collections at that point. Didn't know they would pull up my credit.
You don't know how to look at the credit report.
Didn't qualify for that car. So then I asked my mom to co-sign for me, and my mom also could not help me because her credit wasn't that great either. So now the dealership was able to make it work. They were able to get me financed, but it was a struggle. It was a pain in the ass to do. And I had to, for us to even make it work with the bank that wanted to finance me, I had to come up with a lot of money for the down payment. So I had like $8,000 saved up at the time. Typically, when you're buying a car, something 20,000, you're putting 10% down, $1,500, $2,000, 2,500. So I used all of my savings to put towards that car.
Wow, so you put that 8K down to purchase that car.
8K down to purchase that car. And crazy enough, my car payment, this was my mom said it'd be $400 to $500 before we did all that. Somehow it still ended up being $400 a month.
Wow, even after the $8,000.
Yeah.
Jeez.
This is my first awareness point of credit and interest and how all that stuff works, right? So fast forward, long story short, I had that car for about 8 months. I got 2 reckless driving tickets in it. 19 years old, the rear wheel drive car pushing 400 horsepower. Probably not something a 19-year-old should be driving. But anyways, when I was trying to get that car, and when they told me literally what's this Discover? It was a Discover credit card that I didn't pay that got sent to collections. They were asking me about it, and I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, this is on credit card. Yeah, I have it still, but I don't use it. It's, oh yeah, no, I don't pay anything towards it. I just, whatever. I got the money. What does it matter? I don't why do you guys care about that? I can afford this car. My income's this.
Yep.
That was another kind of thing I had to get past too, because I didn't have verifiable income. I was making cash.
Yep.
I had to bring in timestamps and stuff to
Wow.
They really worked with me to get this car.
Wow.
But the whole point is, if I had great credit, my income wouldn't have mattered.
Yep.
Nor that I could verify it or not. And I probably would have got a better deal on the financing, and I probably wouldn't have had to use all my savings just to get the car.
Completely.
But I didn't care about none of that. It was just I want the car. What do we have to do? I'm that guy. Even when I was younger, if I wanted something, I was going to get it, even if I had to exhaust all my savings to do it. So I did. Got 2 reckless driving in that car. Was not able to keep that car very long. My insurance went up to $1,000 a month.
Woof.
That's when I also learned that insurance, your credit plays a part in your insurance rates as well. My car payment was $400 a month. So I was probably 20 at that time. I remember I had the car on my birthday, paying a mortgage to drive a car.
Literally.
So that's when I woke up to how important credit was. Because after I lost that car and I thought you could just turn it in and it wouldn't be a repossession. That still counts as a repossession for anybody that isn't aware. They make it sound all nice, like, yeah, if you turn it in, it's fine. It's not going to affect you. No, it says voluntary surrender under your repossession account. It's just a remark, side note. But anyways, I turned that car in and I was so I realized like, okay, I can't have a new car, fast car, because insurance is going to eat me alive. I was going to finance, I'll get another car. Well, my credit still hadn't improved. I definitely didn't have a lot of money saved up. I had 2 reckless driving tickets that forced me to get in Virginia. I don't know if it's like this all across the country. They have SR22s and then you have FR44s. That's what you get like DUIs and stuff. But I had an SR22, which immediately made my insurance even higher no matter what car I drove or had. So I had to get a little 2002 5-speed Mazda Protege, which was a nice car, but I had to I had to go to a dealership. The same dealership I worked at, because we offered in-house financing options, right? Where your credit doesn't matter. No credit check, in-house financing, everyone's approved. I did that. So the guy that I work for, he's a great guy. Still runs that business to this day. He has he had 4 dealerships. He's consolidated. COVID forced him to consolidate his business. That's irrelevant. But I financed that vehicle. I ended up putting like $2,000 down. It was only like $4,000 or $5,000. So my payments were still pretty high. My insurance was still pretty high because of all the other stuff. But the interest rate that he charges at that time, I don't even remember what it was, to be honest, but it wasn't like low interest.
Yeah, especially if it's in-house financing.
Yes. They're taking a lot of risk, putting out a lot of ability.
Yep.
They're not checking your credit. You're already someone that has demonstrated, your credit basically tells, your potential employers, your insurance companies, anyone that you're trying to finance anything through, what is your history of paying your debts and making your payments on time, right? So if a dealership is going to take that type of risk, then you're not going to get the best interest rate, right? And at this point, I'm sure anyone that watches this knows how that works. So long story short, fast forward. So that was like my big realization. That was the first point, like, okay, credit's important. Fast forward a couple of years down the road, I get through the SR22 stuff. I had to hold that for 3 years. I didn't get any tickets in that time. I'm driving a 2002 Mazda that maybe had like 190 horsepower, front wheel drive. Like, I didn't even like light pulling going out anywhere.
It's be hard to push us to 120 from the jump.
Real nice to, hey, but I also realized a car is a car at that time too. Like, so I grew up a little bit past the materialistic aspect of the vehicle that I had. So anyways, not to drag the story out, fast forward, I'm not detailing for that guy anymore. I'm running one of his dealerships. And by that time, I had a BMW that I paid for in cash because my credit's still bad, for the next, until I'm like 24, 25 years old. Didn't do anything about it. Never had to worry about it because I didn't go and try to buy a home. I already knew I couldn't buy a car. Like, I was just like, I'm just going to pay for everything in cash. Like, I'll just pay for everything in cash. Like, yeah. Problem with paying for everything in cash is when you use all your cash, then your cash is gone. So you got to build the cash back up. But from after that car that I financed, I bought all my cars cash. I got to a point in my life I was making a lot more money, doing a lot of different things. So the second realization of how important credit was and where I started wanting to do something about it, not only for myself, but help others, was when I was selling cars. Because people would come in to the dealership. And this is all during COVID, by the way. So this is like fast forward to 2021. So like 7 years, 2020, whenever COVID was, 7 years later, I realized that, these people really want vehicles, or they're coming in trying to trade in vehicles that we call in the dealership world, they're upside down on, because they purchase a used vehicle at the market value it should be at, but then they're paying crazy interest rates, like 29%, 24%. To these financing companies, like CarMax is one of them. Everyone's pretty familiar with. They're all across the country. They'll finance anybody. Just you're going to have fun trying to pay that thing off. You're never going to be able to trade that car in. But people come in trying to trade their cars in, and I could not help them because I knew my boss was not going to buy off their loan to finance them something into one of our vehicles. It just, the numbers wouldn't make sense.
Yep.
So I felt bad because I couldn't help those people. Then I had other people come in who they just didn't have a lot of money, or they had money, but they couldn't verify their income to finance other vehicles at like the other lots, where the banks finance and all that jazz. They wanted nicer stuff, that accommodates their family. If it's newer, typically it doesn't have a lot of problems. That's like the idea. There's some nuances to that. Again, not getting into that today. But long story short, I started feeling bad for people that would come in and that I knew like they had no other options but to take the cars that we had. Not saying we had bad cars. We had great cars. Our interest rate was lower than CarMax. It was 22.9% or something, 19%. I don't know, something like that. But the standard rate for financing an auto loan at that time was like, 5, 6, 7% for people with good credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started like feeling bad for those people because I knew like they're going to finance this vehicle. They're not going to be able to make the payments, and we're going to come and like repo that car from them because it's just like it's just the nature of the business. You're dealing with people that already can't make payments, right? They didn't care about their credit either. So I had to start educating people. Hey, this is why you can't do this. This is why you can't do this. This is why you can't afford that car. I don't know if you can afford this car, but we'll let you do it. But here's the ramifications if you don't pay, right? So that really opened up my eyes. And then that's when I started like looking into my credit. Like one, how can credit is important. Two, I saw an opportunity like, okay, I have a bunch of people coming in front of me all the time that need some credit, like their credit fits. If their credit was just in a better position, they can go get newer cars at cheaper rates that they could afford and, not have to worry about the repos and all that. So then I started like looking into credit repair and learning about that. And I made it a point to like fix my own credit first. Right. And then from there, I could go on and on and on about this story. I don't want to drag out because you asked, but like
we're here for it.
I had two realizations, if you will. That first one was I had to go through some things that most people wouldn't go through just to get something that I wanted. And everyone telling me, no, you can't have it. And it was pissing me off that I couldn't have it because of this one thing that I didn't care about at the time. To getting what I wanted, maybe if I didn't get what I wanted, I probably would have had, maybe done something about it earlier. It's funny how that worked. But to later kind of seeing it from the other side of the desk and understanding why it is that way. I used to think the credit system was out to like, F us and hold us back and set us up. But once you kind of see from the other side of the desk, you understand how it works. And then you also start to understand that, hey, if you just kind of know how this stuff works and if you're just kind of financially literate and educated on it, then you can use it to your advantage. And it's actually sets you up to protect you from yourself, protect the people that are giving out money, loaning you things, financing things. As well as just like there's other ways that you can take advantage of it past a car and a home, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, right? So those are kind of like the 2 points. And then, going into tomorrow, what I'm going to be talking about is what happens after that, because that was the last job that I worked. So, but yeah, sorry, that was like a 5-10 minute rant, but
no, I think it's such great information. Just that whole story right there shows such importance on why credit is so important, right? And like, there's clients that we work with, and sometimes people ask me like, no, this is just a credit card that's like, just a Best Buy card. Who cares if it has an 800 balance with $1,000 limit? I'm like,
yeah, it's not that much money.
This is still data on your report that's structured in a specific way, that's going to represent on how banks could judge you, right? So if you're not positioning yourself to show that, which how I view credit is your credibility, right? How credible are you in terms of being able to pay funds back, or how credible are you in terms of how you structure your finances can make a huge difference on what you're able to do. Which I do want to ask, because you went from managing a car dealership, you said around 2020 this was, right? Now we're in 2025. I've been around you over the last recent years, and I don't know Lamar, managing a car dealership. I know Lamar who... I mean, I don't know exactly how much money this guy made last year, but
I did well.
Close to $1 million.
I did well.
Do I not to put out any numbers? But and I only know that just like a few of your resources where you pull money from, and I know you have finances balanced out in different opportunities. So how'd you position yourself from just having a management job to positioning to start to pursue these opportunities that highly elevated your income?
It's a great question. And the answer to that is not a simple one. But what I will say is I'm very glad that I have found some level of financial success now at the age that I am now and after the experiences I've been through. Because if I kept getting what I wanted, like I did when I got that car and I made a lot more money, I don't know if I would be in the position I am in now. You know,
Mm.
it's kind of, I truly believe everything happens the way it's supposed to happen for you.
Mm.
And I also believe that you got to go through some things to, you know, experience the fruits of your labor and what the other side is like. I think you got to go through some mud, go through some rain to see a little bit of sunshine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So without those experiences and just kind of those lessons, then I definitely want to be here where I am today. But how did I go from managing a car dealership to what I'm doing now? So the most money I ever made when I was selling cars was in a year was like around 70 grand. I definitely have not been anywhere close to that in the last 3 years. But some lessons that I learned while working at that dealership. So the guy that I worked for, he gave me the responsibility of running a dealership for him. I was the youngest person he ever had running a dealership. He always hired people like in their 30s or older with other experience. I never ran a dealership before. But I guess he saw enough in me and he saw my growth too. Again, I started
Mm-hmm.
like washing cars for him 7, 8 years prior,
Mm.
right? So he saw a lot of growth in me in many ways. And I wasn't even with this company that entire tenure. Like I ended up coming back, if you
Mm.
will,
Mm.
and I guess impressed him enough. But, you know, having that experience of being responsible, not only for a business and the success of the business, but also being liable if that business did not succeed. Because for
Mm.
this particular dealership that I was at, guys, I was the only person there. So it's not like I was managing a team. It wasn't like I had salesmen. I was the sales manager. I was the finance manager. I was sometimes person that had to clean the vehicles and fix little tedious things that might
Sheesh.
hold someone from buying the vehicle. And I got paid pretty well to do all of that. I was responsible for the marketing, the advertising, all that. So I learned a lot about running a business, even though it wasn't my business. I learned a lot just from that opportunity.
Mm.
And I excelled so well that when this guy, again, he had 4 dealerships. He had consolidated them down to where it was 2 dealerships left, his main headquarters, and then like the one I was running.
Mm.
So COVID forced him, not because of the lack of performance that the business did or lack of sales, during COVID, for anyone that may have not realized it, you know, it was very hard to find and cars and purchase cars, new or used. New cars didn't have the microchips from China because no one was working in China because whatever was happening. So new cars weren't being put on lots, if you guys, you know, remember. And COVID sounded like we talk about it like it was so long ago.
Yeah, right.
It's like that was like a decade ago. It was like a couple years
Yeah, it
ago.
was just a couple years ago. Yeah.
And used cars. So manufacturers that stopped manufacturing parts for older model vehicles, like early 2000s and things like that. And they just also couldn't source certain items to make these parts to keep these cars going and maintaining them, right? So you had a hard time sourcing units, is my point, like new or used. So he ended up closing the dealership down that I ran because when we did have cars, I was selling them out. There was times I only would have 2 or 3 cars on the
Oh,
on the
wow.
lot. And this is the lot that can hold like 40, 50 cars. I
Mhm.
never, during the time I was working with him, I never had 40, 50 cars on that lot.
Mm.
When I was cleaning cars on that lot years ago, that lot was always full, like rotating in and out. So I was selling all the cars that he would bring in, and he just couldn't keep sourcing units. And it got to a point like it was costing a lot of money just to keep the business going,
Mm.
right? So he consolidated down to one dealership, and then he put me in a position to run his entire operation, which he
Mm.
had never done. I wasn't even running the main dealership. There was someone else that had been there doing that. He had a finance manager at that main, like that one was the big one. So I became like his general manager, and I was mainly responsible for going and sourcing units. I would travel, go to the auctions, buy cars, check them out, make sure that they're good, get the cars transported, and manage the money too. Like he had never ever allowed someone to have control of the bank account, and like
Mm.
he always did the purchasing of cars.
Mm.
You're right. That was down because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You make a bad move or a bad decision,
Yep.
then that could result in a lot of lost money.
Yeah, I can set you back.
I could buy a car that has a blown motor in it, or we get it back and has a blown motor. We got to put a motor in it.
Yep.
That's $3, $4, $5,000. You already priced yourself out of profit, right? So I took on that responsibility, and essentially, it wasn't even just about like buying good units. It was I was responsible for this bank account,
Mm.
right? And I was responsible the business, whether we made money that month or that quarter. all came down to the very initial decision of buying a car, right? So it was a very important role.
Yep.
And I kind of got to, and during that time, he was kind of training me up for that role. I was traveling with him. I was spending a lot of time with him, right? So backstory on him, multimillionaire. He went to prison for something when he was very, very young, came out of prison, opened up that car dealership, that headquarters one I'm talking about right now. It used to be a little, like a shack, like a little office that like sat on center blocks, but a big parking lot, gravel parking lot. He built that little business over the next decade to 4 dealerships, a huge warehouse of a garage, his own finance company, his own warranty company. He started from literally nothing and built a business, became a multimillionaire. He owned all the properties that the car dealership sat on. He still owns them to this day. So when he closed the business, he didn't lose the properties. He just started renting them out to other people, right? So the point I'm making is I now had a mentor that was successful, that came from nothing, turned himself into something, built a business, became a multimillionaire. He owns commercial real estate, residential real estate, the car dealerships, a lot of business. And I got to hang with him every single day, right? He was grooming, I think, and I can't wait. I told him that there's a day that him and I have to get on a podcast or do something, because I have a question I want to ask him that I know the answer to. But I feel like he was grooming me to take over his business. Maybe not like sell it to me, but like really take over the whole thing. Maybe some finance deal where I would acquire it at some deal, right? Because he was getting burnt out from the business. COVID really, I think COVID burnt out a lot of people in a lot of different ways, right? And also a lot of people had a lot of different realizations about their money and their credit and their income, which is going to lead into how Improve was started and where we saw opportunity there. But long story short, I got to spend months with this guy. I got to see how he moved. I got to see how he worked. I got to see how he handled his business, how he talked to people, how he had even more responsibilities than I was even aware of because of his other businesses and his other properties. How every morning he get up and go to the gym for an hour or two, like clockworks, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, go up to the gym, get to the office. He would go to the office, shower. He had a shower at his office, and he called it a GSD list. And GSD stands for get shit done, right? So he would this man carried a notepad, didn't use the notes on his phone or nothing fancy, a tablet. He's old school. We went go to the dealerships. He had a clipboard and we're write the cars down. I brought my tablet and was like doing shit on my tablet. He would look at me all funny, like he have his little clipboard, and he's old school and he's young. He's like 38. He's not that much older than me, right? So he had a GSD list. He would write down on his little notepad on his desk all the priorities that he had to get done right then and there, which usually was stuff that maybe didn't get done from the prior day, the least priority stuff. And then everything else, he would try to go about tackling that, or that would move into the next day. So that was something I took from him. Like, okay, the man's organized. He doesn't procrastinate. Like if something comes up, he takes care of it, right? 2, he leveraged the tools and resources that he had around him to organize and keep his day structured. So I've had an iPhone for a very long time. I've never been one to use Siri. I've never been one to use I scrolled on social media and I texted and I made phone calls and FaceTime. We both know that these phones are, $1,000 hardware devices, basically computers in our pockets that have a lot more capabilities than what people use them for. Right? Not him. So something that I picked up from him, whenever he needed to remind himself of something, or he needed to call someone back, or there was something that popped up that wasn't on his list that he needed to get done by a certain time. Hey, Siri, set an alarm 5 minutes before 3 o'clock to call my realtor back. Hey, Siri, set an alarm at this. Hey, Siri, make a note. Hey, Siri, I was like, wow, like I never, just seen anyone do that. So I started doing that, because again, he was putting me in a position to handle a lot of the stuff of his business. And I realized I had to be more organized and structured with how I went about my days. So I started saying, hey Siri. The problem is I would do 5 minutes before. I would set an alarm 5 minutes before to call someone at a certain time. But then I had to condense that thing down to 2 minutes, because I would set the alarm for 5 minutes, then do something else and forget to call somebody.
So I'd be snooze or lock it off.
So I started just doing a lot of the things that he did and just structure, like, you find what is it? The phrase, like, if you want to be successful, find someone that's found success and model after. There's a particular phrase for it, but you know what I'm saying, right? So I started to model myself after him. And then I got to the point where there was a day the finance manager quit and he needed someone to run the finance department. And here's where my journey with Impruvie was born. I started to understand how his in-house financing company worked. And I understood how much money the business was bringing in. Now, mind you, I went back through all the records, and he's like, if he saw us today, he knows, got to talk about this with him. I went back to when he had 4 dealerships, and I started looking at the numbers. There was a time that this man was bringing in anywhere between $8 to $12 million a month.
Wow.
Like revenue for the business. Now he has a lot of expenses. Car dealership is great margins sometimes, but you got cars and you got to put motors in them.
Yeah, you have employees, and you have your buildings. Yep.
Yeah, insurance, taxes, property taxes. Like $8 to $12 million is a lot of money, guys. But it's like, when you're running a big business got bills, right? But anyways, I went back and I was like, man, that's crazy. So then I also I took note. What even prompted me to do that was the numbers that we were doing just off the one business. And if you guys understand anything about financing, so in-house financing, you purchase the cars and you're financing them to people for 2-3 years, biweekly, monthly payments, and they're paying you the money back for the car plus whatever the interest is. No different than buying a car from a bank, a big dealership, yada, 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 right? But a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of those cars, people didn't always pay all the way off. We had to repo people. Now, he was the type of person, like, he was very lenient. And unfortunately, even when you're lenient with people will take advantage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So he gave people time and all this and all that. But eventually, at the end of the day, he's running a business and he has liability and money in that car. If you're not paying for it, then
he's losing money.
He's got to come get his property.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the nature of the game. Right. Same as like you got you got a mortgage. You don't pay your mortgage. The bank come to take your house. Right. So anyways, there were times, and I would reflect. I'm like, man, I do remember like when I was selling cars, like that red Dodge Dart, 6-speed, had exhaust pipes on it. I do remember selling that car like 3 times. And then there's like another car sold 2 times. And then I started looking at all these cars in the system, the financed accounts, same cars, VIN numbers being sold 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Right? So then I started to see, okay, he's financing these vehicles. Yeah, he's putting a lot of money and liability and risk out there.
Yep.
But if someone pays the car off, he makes his money. If someone doesn't pay the car off, but they paid it for like 6 months and then he got it back and then resold it again, and the car's in a good shape, he got it, re-inspected, fits what need to be fixed, finances to somebody else, and they pay for 6 months, and you repo it. And then repo costs money, guys. Like, you don't just repo a car and for free. Like, that costs money too. Yep. But anyways, I started to see like how now he has like a compounding interest type of thing going on. Yep. Right. And then I started to see like, hey, there's accounts in here that people have been paying on these cars for 2 years before we shut down the dealership that he shut down before he shut mine down. So long story short, I'm just trying to, get in everyone's head, like what I saw. I started understanding how debt works. And I started to think like just kind of bigger as to, okay, how do banks make money? Banks make money, multiple ways, but one of the big ways is they give out debt, right? They loan you money, they charge you interest to pay it back. What's the biggest banking product in this country? It's mortgages, it's homes. We can go down a rabbit hole of how, the American dream was a product and marketing that was created by the banks to build this economy, build their economy.
To get into their ecosystem.
Yeah. But we won't do that today. Maybe we save that for tomorrow or another podcast. That I could go on and on about that too, and I bet you could. Yep. But anyways, so the banks make money. That's one of the main ways. They make money other ways, but, to stay on topic, debt. Okay. And then I started thinking about, all right, what are the most what are the largest institutions in this world, really in the country and world, that make the most money? It's debt companies, people that's loaning out money to build infrastructure, to put up this building, this office building. This building wasn't built, with cash. Yep. It wasn't built by, or maybe, I don't know. I'm not from around here, so but let's just talk on broad terms. This building possibly wasn't built by the city. And even if it was, that money had to come from somewhere. Maybe it came from taxpayer money. But let's say someone borrowed the money to build this building from the bank. Hey, I'm going to build this building. Back in the day, you could easily borrow money to build stuff like this. Now, not so much. And I'm going to have 20 offices and I'm going to rent those offices out for $2,000 each. And this is like, this is my business plan, blah, 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 blah. This building's going to make us money, make you money. And back then you could easily borrow money from the bank to put stuff up like this. And you can still do it, with some businesses, but you and I both know, as we'll probably talk about tomorrow as well, it's not that simple.
Yep. It's much more intricate. Yeah.
And credit's a big part of that, right?
Yep.
So anyways, long story short, I started realizing that, hey, I don't want to be in the sales game, in car sales. And I don't want to run a car dealership because I also, by being with him, understood how much pressure and stress he was under, and how, not that I was shy away from any of it, because now that I run a company, I have a lot of pressure, stress, and responsibilities too. But I didn't hit the problem with that business model. He'll tell you too. It's hard to get out because you got so much money on the books that's financed out there. You can't just sell your accounts. You could, and there are companies that will come in and buy those financed accounts, but they're going to buy on pennies on the dollar, not what they're worth, what they're worth to you. And then if you're constantly still financing cars, you're just adding more accounts that might not get paid off for 2 or 3 years, or you get repo them, and it's a never-ending cycle. So I started thinking about all this, and I'm like, okay, $8 to $12 million a month is great. And I knew how much money he was making a month. And if he ever hopped something with me, I'm not going to say his income, but he was making a lot of money, right? But he also had to really deal with some stuff to make that money. So then I realized, okay, I think he's grooming me to take over his business so he can exit, which is fine. And at the time I was probably about it. But then I started seeing the numbers, and the numbers are great, but and I can make money in this business, but that's not where I want to make money. I want to be what he is. I want to be not be what he is. I want to facilitate. I want to be in the middle. I want to connect people to the money, right? So I could still be the salesman, but instead of just making a commission off selling a unit, now I'm selling the financing, right? And there were other aspirations. I just couldn't figure out how I was going to do it. I now know, and we are doing this now, but I also wanted to be the lender. I wanted to be the bank. I don't want to be paying the bank. I want to be the bank. I want to loan the money out. I want people to owe me money. I want to be able to charge interest and compound that. That's how you make money, right?
Yep.
So that's what led me. And it's funny, when we started ImproveU was originally about credit repair, right? And financial education. And then we got into funding right around the time that I'm learning all this stuff about his company. Because I was still working for him when we started ImproveU. When I was selling, when we were doing credit repair, that's what I was doing while I was running this dealership. And then I started to when we got into funding, and then I learned, I can sell money and actually be in the middle of these deals and just broker the deal. Broker is that's always been a thing. People broker stuff all the time. There's middlemen everywhere. But I know this will lead me to the point of actually loaning out money.
Yep.
So that's where I started shifting my focus. And I probably stayed working with him up until, I think, April or May of 2022. Yeah, because I've been, this May will be 3 years that I've been out of, working a job. And so that all lines up. So I, not that he ever told me that he was grooming me to run his business, but, him and I had a conversation. He knew about the company we were building, and he knew that I was trying to balance that and buy cars and stuff. I didn't have to, by the way, guys, when I got into the finance manager role, I played that role for 2 weeks until we hired somebody. So I didn't stay there, but I saw enough.
You saw it. Yeah. You saw what you needed to see.
I saw what I needed to see. And I wasn't never going to go and set up my own dealership and compete with the guy. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. This excites me more, and I feel like I can still make an impact this way too, right? I'm not trying to be a loan shark, but there's something here, and I just so happen to be learning about credit and helping people fix their credit. What if I could help people fix their credit and qualify for money for better deals and just be a part of that equation, right?
Yeah.
So from a business standpoint, I saw an opportunity, right? From a personal standpoint, I also saw a way of how I can impact and help people, right? That's a whole nother story, how my why, if you will. But those kind of aligned together at the right time.
Yep.
And it was game over from there.
beautiful. Yeah, they say a successful business is a business that's solving problems, right? So within the middle of all these things, there's a lot of problems, whether if you're a business owner or someone that has to utilize credit to get towards these directions. Like through all of that, there's so many problems that are seen that could be solved, right? So how you position your mind to see those opportunities and how to find those solutions. And what's even more beautiful that you structured, within your business model, it's not only providing solutions where you're someone that could help with the solutions of other people getting financing, but even in terms of helping people, you also positioned the company where other people could also earn for also referring people and being a part of spreading that word.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's how the business grew, right? What was the best way for us to, get out there what we're offering, right? What is our service? And yeah, it's just doing right by people, providing good results, educating them, helping them with their goals and their journey and their aspirations, doing it the right way, setting them up for success, making sure that we put them in a better position than how we found them. And when you do things like that and you do business the right way and you do right by people, then they're going to bring you more business, right? So it's that simple. If you're helping people genuinely, you're going to become one of their favorite people, and two, they're going to get motivated to like, hey guys, like my man Lamar, my man Jonny helped me do this, or they start asking like, hey man, how did you like do this? How did you do that? How did you make this money? How did you get that car? How did you start that business? Oh, my man Jonny like showed me how to fix my credit. He showed me how to borrow money the right way and really put me in position to, start this business. Oh, well, yeah, like I want to talk to Jonny. Yeah. Like hit him up. I want to talk to Lamar. Yeah. Yeah. Talk to him. So it's become a really beautiful thing, man. And it definitely started off as like, we had no idea like where we were going to kind of go with this. We wanted to build a business. We wanted to provide value. And at first that value was credit. Getting people financially educated on how important credit is. And then it just turned into something, bigger than that. Right. And now we got even more on the way this year. So I won't talk about that today though.
All right. I was like, want to drop some C's, but okay. we'll come back for that one.
Let's talk about you, Jonny. So let's talk about how did you get here? You made a couple references to how I've helped you, and I don't want to take all the credit for the success and the knowledge that you've gained or you found, because at the end of the day, you can lead people to the water, but you can't make them drink it, right? I'm not going to like shove your head down here and like soak up all this information and knowledge and go and apply it, right? So you were able to hold yourself accountable and take action on the information that you learned, but what even got you there in the first place? How did you end up in this world of financial literacy, if you will?
Well, one of the things that like really kicked things into gear for me, because I've pursued entrepreneurship and different projects up and down for over a decade, was when one of my really good friends, one of my best friends, he went through a huge setback himself. He went through a divorce. He had to take years for him to fight back, to have responsibility over his kids again. He had a real estate brokerage that completely went to shit, that he lost. And he was at a point where he was sleeping on my couch. I was like, hey man, you're going through a hard time. I live in Florida. Come down here. You can stay at my place, don't have to pay for anything, get yourself back on your feet. And he was working at a pizza shop. He was bartending. He was working like 3 jobs just for like a few months. He was just like hustling. Then he moved out. And then within a few months after that, he started 3 new companies, right? He started a credit repair company. He started to buy land where he was structuring deals. And then he started a wood shop, right? And 2 of these businesses were each producing, around 20, 30 grand a month within a year's time. And I was just like, what the F did you just do, bro? Like you were just sleeping on my couch and now you have these thriving companies. And like, how'd you position yourself to even start these businesses or to have this whole entire warehouse, with all these wood products where you're buying, wood for $1 and selling it for 15 and like, on different ways that you're remodeling it. Like what did you do? Cause like you were just freaking broke. And then he was like, oh, I got over 100 grand from the banks and, for me to like start these opportunities. I was like, what? Like the banks just gave you over 100 grand? Like, again, you're broke, sleeping on my couch. Like he's like, it's because how my credit is positioned. And that just like blew me away, because everything that I've learned about credit finance from areas that I grew up in was that like credit is bad. It could damage your life. It could set you back, and it could be very harmful. Like these were things that I were taught. So like I never had a credit card, never took out loans. All the opportunities I pursued was literally with my own money or me putting together pitch decks to have other investors come involved in projects that I was a part of. And it was just so hard for me to grow and do things when you're just so limited with resources. And I saw that he had all the resources to pursue the ideas that he wanted to help him continue to flourish. And even at that time, I was trading with the hedge funds. So like I was a little like hard-headed. I was like, all right, well, like I'm making money, like I'm trading, I'm investing. But there was like a few months where I lost tens of thousands of dollars of my own money and other people's money. It was around like 70 grand. And I was just like, all right, like I need a reset, and it kind of reminded me onto like where he was. Like I went to one of my other friends' places. He was like, hey, Jonny, like you're going through a lot. You seem super stressed out. Like just come chill at my place for a couple months until like you readjust yourself. And like, it was just that whole conversation in my head. Like I could create anything from nothing if I just position my credit the right way. And like, I was like, and I still didn't know where to start. And like at this time, I was just more open-minded than ever. I was working at a job again. And then I came across Improve You, Greg, because I knew Greg from the investment world through other networks that I had, which is how I met yourself. And I just saw the brand that you guys had, and I just saw that what you guys had on. You guys were helping business owners. Like you helped this person get 100 grand. You helped this person get $300,000. You helped this person get 50 grand. You helped this person start this new idea and this new business. And I was just like, what a cool ass company that these guys are running. Like their business model is helping people win. And like that alone was just excited me. Like, just the whole entire structure was supplied. And like, I reached out to Greg. I was like, hey man, like I'm into doing things that adds value to entrepreneurs. I love running events. I love doing things that could help people grow and adjust. That helps me grow and adjust. And I see that you have a company that just adds so much value to other people. Like if there's any way I could be a part of it, whether if it's like running events for your, like I had no idea like on how I would even structure myself. I wasn't even looking to come in for sales or anything. I was just like, these are a group of people. I know them. I trust them. Well, at least it was Greg at that moment. And then of course you came along, and you're literally the pivotal role that like played a part in, okay, I want to have a home here. I want to be a part of this organization. But that was really the wake up call for me. And then it wasn't until months later, I saw like another post that the company was looking for people to support. And I hit up Greg again. I'm like, yo, why don't you tell me, man? Like, hey, you guys looking for people? Like, let me know. And he was like, all right, get on a call with my friend Lamar. Or Lamar, he helps run, all this parts of our company. And that was when we got on our first call together, and we really hit it off. And I know like you're having calls with many people, and I just happened to be one of the people that you took on, right? So that was the whole wake up call for me. Was just learning about credit from scratch, right? And not only taking that information so I could help other people with it, but how much that information has also drastically positioned me in different parts of my life, right? Because I never paid attention to credit. I didn't know on how to build, scale, fix, optimize, and position my credit to get financing options, to save on interest. I know people like you flew here, you're in lounges in the airport, like traveling for free and things like this. Like I just wasn't aware of like how any of that worked. So it was just more.
My flight was for free here, by the way, too.
Right, because of credit.
Yeah,
because of credit.
Don't
like,
chase points.
Don't chase points. Yep. And like I just wasn't, and I wanted to get on that side of the fence, and then I just started to see how powerful credit was and how important it was and how much it could be a drastic leverage and improvement to your life and not a downfall to yourself if you just treated it the right way. Yeah. So not only did I have the solutions where I could help people in these angles, I was just like, all right, this is so valuable because this could also help myself. This could also help my family. This could also help my friends, and I started to take on that information very seriously. And from the very beginning, you got on a couple calls with me. Not only were you guys teaching me through these things, but you personally helped position my credit in specific ways. You gave me a game plan where I went from having like absolutely no credit, right, to being very high risk to banks. Within less than a year, I positioned myself where I got over 100 grand in funding, right? pretty much all of that as 0% interest financing within the terms that they gave me. And it helped me pursue opportunities, now, and I helped my fiance even get over 60 grand from banks, with these solutions. And now we're investing into real estate. Now we have online businesses. It's helping me start other companies myself, outside of the value and work that we provide to others. And I wouldn't have had those solutions. I wouldn't have been able to position myself to start to exercise these other cash flowing opportunities if I just only could use my own money.
Yeah.
So I've been able to position myself in a much better way, which was very powerful, which made me just so much more believe in the value that we offer. Because not only are we helping other people do this, but I did this for myself. I did this for my fiance. I'm doing this for my brothers and sisters. And to me, that was very powerful. And so, that's how I got here today, where I am now. And I'm very excited just for the future, what we continue to create. There's so many opportunities that I could continue to pursue, even outside of here. We have these brands with this, event-based business that, we'll see how, much deeper I dive back into that, with other solutions that we could provide. But to me, what was most important that I got the most value from was the different types of teams that I could be a part of. Right. And you have been a huge role. There's a couple of people that's in this company that, does a lot of impact, but yourself personally, the type of like how you lead, how you communicate. And just like you said, you can't force someone to the water and have them drink, and I never felt like you forced me. Like we don't even talk like that much. But every time we do communicate, it's like right to the core on exactly what needs to be adjusted. And for me to have an opportunity to surround myself with people that perform life at a very high level, just on how you spent time with your mentor, I knew that was invaluable within itself. And there's friends of mine like, Jonny, you could leave this company and do this. You're doing better and over here. Now you could go do that. It's just like, nah, man, like I want to, like relationships to me are priceless. And these people played such a huge impact. Like I want to continue going down this direction and continue being a part of this mission that's even much bigger than myself. So I'm very much excited for what we could continue to create, the more people that we could impact, and to pursue more opportunities. Now, like my mind is just always working. Like I have solutions where I could pursue any type of opportunity.
You have problems sleeping too, don't you?
Problems sleeping too, yeah, completely. Lou's over here helping us with this podcast, so he knows. Because like now, to all my friends and people that are close to me,
you got your friends you text at 3 a.m. Like,
yeah.
So what if we did this?
Exactly. Yep.
Like they text you back in the morning, like, bro, go to sleep. Like I haven't slept. I've been up the whole time.
Yeah,
I put this whole thing together.
Literally. Literally, that's how these last couple of weeks have pretty much gone, because it's exciting. It makes me want to wake up and play in the world. So like now I feel like, holy shit, I have the knowledge where I could play. I could go out there and pursue or create any type of opportunity that I want, because I have the answers to get the right resources.
Yeah, that's what I talked about earlier, right? Creating your own economy, right? And there's a couple things you hit on that I want to kind of revert back to. One, how cool is it that you get to do something that you enjoy, that also makes you money and takes care of you financially, that you find your own like kind of fulfillment with, and impacts others at the same time. Like how cool and how rare of an opportunity that is. You got people out here that are trainers that aren't in the best of shape, and realtors that aren't real estate investors, and not to knock anybody that does stuff like that, but it's very important, guys. If you're going to be if you're going to run a business and work in a client-facing type provide a service in a client-facing type of role like those, right? You're not selling a product, you're selling a service. Then I believe that it's very important that you work with people that are a proof of concept of whatever it is that they're talking about or selling, right? So you touched on it. Not only are you helping people with these things, but you're applying this knowledge for yourself. Right? So I think that, like, how cool is that?
Bro, it's been a game changer, man. And I'm incredibly grateful for the work that we do. With the work that we do, we really get paid on the back end. We don't get paid until we deliver the real service. We deliver the product where we help people get to the finish line, right? So it's really no risk for people to work with us because we're getting them to the finish line. And, through that, sometimes, it takes 1 month, sometimes it takes 6 months, depending on what we have, how we have to adjust clients we work with. So, the way I look at it, it's like, all right, anyone who the work I'm doing now is going to pay me in the future. It's going to pay me 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So I don't even worry about like my checks today, I just worry about just providing great value. And it's so easy to get on phone calls and converse with people because I'm helping people adjust. And you talked about it on some videos that I saw you do. What's really cool about the work that we pursue is that, we have this like larger scope of like the whole entire playing field, right? We talk to so many different entrepreneurs all the time. We see so many different types of business models. So not only is it cool that I'm, even people that are much more successful than me, I'm helping them with solutions for opportunities that they want to pursue. So it's like, all right, the information we have is very valuable. But I get a large scope on so many different opportunities that's out there. And to me, there's just so much to learn from. So I definitely feel this is a very, very unique opportunity for anyone to be a part of. If anyone knows people that want solutions towards financing, for them to position themselves to help those people, right? And of course, we could help you guys do that. It's a very unique place to play yourself, because there's such a fulfillment for the value that you're bringing, so I think it's a very valuable thing.
And that's another thing. Like, so I talked a little bit about like how, I got to a point where I can leverage and play, leverage those opportunities for myself. My journey was a little different than yours. So like I had to go and fix my credit. I remember with you, yours wasn't so much, you didn't need to fix your credit. You just didn't like have any.
Yeah, I had like a blank profile. So bureau's at a 0 score. It wasn't even a score.
Yeah, so talk about that, because for the people that end up, watching this, it's not some of you guys are not so much in a position where you got to recover and start over or anything like that. There's a lot of people out there also that just don't use credit, never use credit, haven't borrowed money. They always, hey, I pay cash for everything. Like, was that you? Like, were you just someone that you pay cash for everything, or you just didn't, again, it just wasn't that important to you?
I literally paid cash for everything.
Yeah.
For everything that I purchased, for businesses that I started. I paid cash for everything, which I felt was beneficial because it taught me a financial discipline where like I can't spend what I don't have.
Yeah.
So now that I do have credit and I have over,
debt is bad. It's a scam.
Yeah, right.
Like, all right, I'm gonna stay away.
Where like, but now that I kind of force myself in that direction, it has like a different habit on how I treat credit cards, and I could treat them in a much more appropriate way because of, the discipline I had to have with my finances. But yeah, where I started is what I tell people, and you and Richard talked about it before, like the best time to start working on your credit is when you don't need to, right? That's the best time to start working on your credit, because some people think like working on your credit is like, oh, I got to fix my credit. Well, fixing your credit is just like the start of it, if you have to fix it, where I didn't have bad credit. Right. I just didn't know on how to position.
I think you had one credit card, what I remember. TD Bank.
Oh, right. It was TD Bank, because it was
a very low limit. I won't put his business out there. He had one credit card. He's like, yo, Lamar, like,
it was a secured card. It was a $300 secured card.
So Jonny came in and he started working with us, and we started training him, and he hit me up like, hey, Lamar, I'd love if you can like take a look at my stuff and just kind of, map out a blueprint. I think it'd be great for me to start doing this for myself, so that way I can, work with these clients in a better manner, because I'm also doing it. Oh yeah, great idea. It took me some time to get, for us to meet up and do it. But I remember like, hey, I got great news and bad news for you, Jonny. The good news is you don't need to fix your credit. The bad news is you need to build your credit. So it's going to take a little bit longer for you to like be able to borrow the type of money that you're wanting to leverage, right?
Completely.
So kind of talk about that for like the people that don't, that are in similar shoes. Just like, hey, like, yes, we can help, people get really as much as they want, but it's not just about what you want. It's not just about what your credit score displays. It's also about what you qualify for.
Correct.
Based on what the data shows. So like, what was that, kind of share your experience there.
Yeah. So it's learning just a whole foundation on how credit worked. And when I started to do that, I started to realize like, wow, this stuff is really not complicated at all. Right. So, and it just started off having the right foundation, right? There's different parts of credit, whether if it's your credit age, right? The age of your credit makes a difference. The type of mix that you have, do you have like car loans, mortgages and credit cards and lines of credit, the type of mix that you have. So, these things that you push me through, and I literally just started from the ground up. I started with credit builder accounts. I started utilizing authorized users, right, to help with my age and to help with my average limits. And it was like a very much of a patient game, which is a lot of people don't get. I mean, when people want to go further, they're just like, I want things now, and the financial industry doesn't work like that, but if you're willing to just take the right steps, which isn't complicated, you could get yourself there. So I worked on the foundation of just positioning the foundation of my credit to look much more attractive, to go into the banks, to start getting higher tier personal credit cards, right? So once I was able to create a proper foundation, have over 5 personal accounts that had a bit of a mix that was on there, shown through different unique solutions, then I was able to go into Chase Bank and get a little bit of a better credit card. Then my first higher limit credit card, which happened within less than a year because of how I positioned the foundation of my credit. My first credit card with Truist was a $10,000 personal credit card. Yep. And I remember I told you that, I'm like, yo, Lamar, I just got a $10K approval from Truist. You're like, all right, apply for another one with Truist. I was like, all right, boom, got another $10K card. Yeah. I was like, all right, dope. And then from there, I called Chase Bank and I was like, hey, Chase, like, you only have me at a $1,200 limit. I want a higher limit. They're like, well, we just gave you an increase like a couple months ago. And I was like, all right, well, if you look at my business account, if you look at my personal checking account, look how I'm treating this card. And you know what? Truist just gave me a $10,000 card. So like, I'm just going to take my business somewhere else. Although I want to utilize you guys, I want to utilize your points. So I even learned strategies on how to communicate with banks in different ways to get things that I want. But I also had to position myself in a specific way for me to even go to the table and talk to the banks in these ways. I had no idea that any of these strategies or way of communicating with banks even worked. Yep. So I went through that patient process of building the right foundation, started to get higher tier personal credit cards. So then by the time I went in to start to get business funding, I had a profile that was way better developed, right? I had 10 accounts that had a great mixture, that had much higher limits, that looked way more credible to the banks for them to give me lending, where prior I would have got denied for everything. Mm-hmm. But once I positioned myself in that way, and when I started to apply for funding, there's a handful of banks that still denied me because I had personal young credit age, right? So it still shows that like, all right, I have to continue building and developing my credit. But to me, which is exciting because I still have the solutions for me to start gaining resources. I can start moving and creating opportunities. And now it's only up from here. Yep. So that's pretty much my process through that phase.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And it's important that people understand that. And I feel like we do a very good job at breaking things down. People come in all the time with very high expectations, sometimes unrealistic, but we don't turn them away and we don't let them down easy. We're pretty direct in our approach. And, again, we take the time to educate them and help them understand why it is that, hey, this is just not, possible right now, but doesn't mean that we can't get there. Yep. Right. Or, hey, I understand that, you may have heard some things somewhere online that led you to believe this, but here's the reality and here's why. Right. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we do a very good job at helping people truly understand how all of this works. And we're not just a company that is just going to just get you the money and then like, all right, peace, like, good luck, have fun. Yep. We take a lot of pride in making sure that people understand what they're getting into, because the reality is, borrowing money it can be scary, right? Like taking on debt can be scary, especially when a lot of us are taught that debt is bad. Yep. But there is such a good thing as bad debt. There is such a thing as bad debt and good debt, right? So kind of share with people like what are the differences? What do you consider bad debt and what do you consider good debt?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's definitely a big difference from bad debt and good debt. And I was just talking to someone about this yesterday, and they're like, yeah, my mom, she has like, 50 grand in like credit limits, and like she, like, I don't know why she's not creating opportunities. Like she's complaining, always complains about like on how, she's broke and how she's scared of credit and things like this and how debt is bad. And I was like, that's really an uneducated mindset when it comes to the financial industry, right? Because if you're just using debt to purchase things as a consumer, then yes, it's going to put you in debt, right? But when you have good debt, this is money that you're spending or utilizing for it to generate you more income. Mm-hmm. And I started to realize like, wow, the wealthiest people that I'm aware of all of them are in the most amount of debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the most amount of debt that
millions and millions and millions.
Millions of dollars in debt. Right? But it's how they utilize that debt that is so important, right? Like that could make you so wealthy if you position yourself in the right ways, right? So if you utilize debt in the proper ways and you're utilizing it to create more opportunities for yourself, then that's how people are creating wealth. So when it came to that point, it's like, I want all the debt. Like, how do I get into more debt? You know, because I know the type of opportunities we're going for. And me and my fiance, all we do now is just hunt for low risk, high reward opportunities. And now that we know on how to position ourselves to get financing, we say no to majority of things. Like, nope, nope, nope. All right, this, we'll think about it. This, that's a hot deal. We'll hop on it. You know, but we could just go out there and hunt. We go out there and hunt and be patient, right? Because we're already utilizing debt to create cash flowing income for ourselves to purchase assets, and we could still continue that angle. And now because of that cash flow that we're developing from that debt, we're now even positioning our businesses to be even way more credible, where we could go into, hey, this is how we're utilizing debt. So we could even go back into banks to even access even way higher levels of financing, because the banks are like, you know how to treat debt properly.
Yeah, you're a professional.
We'll give you more debt.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to do things with my own money. I want to do things with OPM, other people's money, right? The bank's money, right? I could only go so far with my own personal finances alone. But when I'm using OPM, other people's money, then I could position myself to play at a way higher level, which is good debt.
Yep. And the rabbit hole goes deep. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize is what we do, guys, is just the beginning. Really, like we introduce you to what I like to call like the very you know, like, I'm not gonna say basic level stuff, but like this, it's just the beginning. Leveraging credit and funding your business through credit, leveraging 0% interest, low interest. That just opens the doors for you to even more opportunities to take on more capital from these banks that you're already doing business with, and that you're displaying that you can be a responsible borrower or a professional borrower. You can be a good, you know, you're disciplined and you're using the debt properly, because the bank's going to make their money either way, right? They want you to pay their money back. Like, the bank's not chomping at the bits for you to default on your debt, on your unsecured lines or even your collateralized lines. That's something else that people don't realize. Like, it depends on where you're at. I can't say this, and who owns your assets truly, because you don't own your assets until you know, have the paperwork that shows, like, in your possession, hey, this is mine. But the banks aren't chomping at the bits to come in, you know, foreclose on your home. Your car dealerships aren't chomping at the bits to come in, repossess your vehicle. That, all those things cost them money, and there's processes that go into that as well. Right. So they want you to be a good steward of the capital that they're providing you, and they want you to succeed, because if you succeed, they succeed, and they're going to give you more money for them to make more money off of. But then it goes into like, who's playing who type of game, right? Because if you play the strategies that we teach of the majority of our clients, the starting out stuff with leveraging 0%, you know, the banks might not make as much money off you as they can somebody else that's paying interest. They're going to still make their money, but now you're taking advantage of this. You're not taking advantage, but now you're leveraging the bank's money, OPM, to you know, to the fullest capabilities for yourself. So you can make the most money. So it's a back and forth game that you play. But if you play the game the right way, then you can benefit greatly, right? And that's something that we truly take our time to educate people on. Like, yeah, your numbers make sense and your numbers matter. You want to think about this, you want to think about that, but you don't want to get so much into like analysis paralysis where, like, well, if I'm borrowing this, I got to make this. Like, look, just get in the game, have a plan, you know, have a goal, have some intention with what you're going to do. Don't necessarily borrow money if you don't need it. Don't take on capital. Don't go down the journey of securing funding for yourself if you don't have somewhere to apply it to. And then make sure that's how you apply it. Like Jonny just said, you're supposed to, good debt is you borrow money and you take that money and use that money to make more money, right? Bad debt is you borrow money and you use that money to take on liabilities, right? You know, you're most of the time, unless you were talking like exotics or supercars, your car and your vehicle is a liability, right?
Yeah.
Now we all know you need a vehicle, but like I was saying at the very beginning of this show, like, I had to realize that a vehicle is a vehicle at the end of the day. And it may not have been smart for me to do what I did in the beginning because it put me in a certain position. I had to humble myself and get something that made sense, right? But it still took me from point A to point B, right? I knew like later on down in life I could, get the stuff that I really want, which I have been able to do now. But sometimes things like that's liability. Now, I'm not going to get into the topic today of whether a home is a liability or not because everyone has a lot of different opinions there. I will say there's a reason why I don't personally own a home. Do I own property? Do I own land? Yes, but I have not bought a home. I rent.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that I'll probably be renting for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
There is I have a legacy project with some property back home in Virginia. That's 8 acres that I'm going to build on, and that might end up being some home for me. But I'm not going to borrow money to do it because I want to position myself to the point where I can just go and do what I want to do and not borrow. Because that's not going to be, again, like as I said, that's not something I'm borrowing money to use to make money. I'm going to invest into that for myself,
Yep.
right? So I'm going to use my own cash. So I won't go down that argument, if you will. We'll say that for another day. I have a lot of opinions on that. But the point that Jonny and I are making is like that's the goal, right? Borrow money, use that money, make money. If that's real estate, cool. That's starting a business, cool. That's acquiring a business, cool. That's starting your own wood shop, cool. If that's creating a studio, cool, right? If that is opening up a restaurant or bar, you might want to take a second look, but cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at your margins on that.
Uh-huh.
You might want to make,
low risk, high reward.
Have bottle service. If you have bottle service, you'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
$700 bottles.
Yep. Or Miami, you get a fucking $3,000 bottle on something costs $60 at the store.
Yeah, you got bottle service. You're great. But the point is, whatever it is that you want to do, right? Put yourself in a position to not take out so much risk, like using all your own cash, your savings, or taking equity out of the assets that you do own or have some equity in, like your home. That is something, we have a lot of people come into our system all the time that are like, well, I could, or they have already. I could just, take out a HELOC, and I'm like, you could do that, but there's better ways. Like, you have great credit. You didn't even need to do that. You could have just borrowed the money at 0% interest for the next 12 to 18 months, and so you want to make sure that you have a plan, right? Have a plan, have a goal, right? Know what you're going to do. It might not go the way that you're expecting it, and that's part of business. That's part of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you do that, then you're going to be fine. And don't get so stuck on what it is you're going to do. Just get in the game, right? Take risks. Don't be afraid, and see how it all plays out, right? If you give everything that you got, then it should work out.
Definitely.
And if it doesn't work out, then hey, whatever, you got to dust yourself off and try again.
Yep, completely. We've done that multiple times. So
throw that there. Cue my music.
Yeah, right. Yeah, put that right there, right now. And we're here to help, right? For anyone that wants to pursue any type of opportunity, we're here to grab these type of solutions for you guys. Whether if you're starting a smaller business and you're looking for smaller capital, let's say around $100,000. If you want to leverage 0% interest financing, there's actually a deal that I've been working on for the last 6 months. I'd like to talk to you about with one of my personal friends. I help position her. She's a manager at an accounting firm. I've got her approved with one of my money. And this accounting firm's been around for about 20 years. And one of my other friends, his name is Rob. He should be at the event tomorrow too.
Is it for sale? No,
this is an accounting firm. It is for sale. So my friend Rob, which maybe we could talk about, it could probably potentially help her out. But so my friend Rob, he also works at Citizens Bank. I think only works with Connecticut clients. But anyways, he should be there at the event again tomorrow. But Rob, he's a business relationship manager at Citizens Bank. And I know Rob for many years also, but I help position her in certain things with her credit, how she is, although within this type of solution, less credit, mattered because it's more of a revenue based on how we positioned what she's getting. Mm-hmm. But the owner of that accounting firm is looking to sell that accounting firm, right? And we got her approved for a $2.1 million loan through Citizens Bank, through on how we structured her. And now she's looking at, okay, cool. Now, because this is a low risk business and because of the financials of this business, she has a 5% down payment she has to put into that SBA loan. And, the So the bank is like, okay, how are you going to make that down payment? How are you going to pay this $100,000, for you to acquire this business? And, her first answer was like, I could take out a home equity line of credit, from her home, then now have this another thing on her credit report that lasts for 30 years where I'm just like, oh, let's pull the brakes a little bit, which is why her and I communicate often, because there's more strategical, smarter ways that we could apply this. Through this business, you're going to bring back way more than $100,000 yourself personally once you take over ownership. And we could get you that access to that $100,000 at 0% interest financing for you to pay that down payment for that SBA loan. So it could lock you in for that $2.1 million that you could acquire to purchase that business. And you could have that down payment come from 0% interest financing where you could pay back that $100,000 and save, 10, 20, whatever on your interest payments.
And not put your house at risk.
And not put your house at risk and separate it from your personal credit report. So she can make all these moves while keeping her personal credit intact.
Yeah.
Right. She had no idea about these solutions and she's a very intelligent woman, but we have the ability to help people through these processes for them to find the solutions for them to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
But anyone could do it. Anyone could position themselves to get there.
Yep. And that's that's the next phase for what we're doing as a company as a whole. And, a lot of our team members are already helping clients do, like you just said yourself, right? The next step for Improve You for our roadmap is to help people do just that by existing cash flowing businesses, acquiring those businesses, helping them get the financing for those businesses, right? Yep. Or maybe even providing the financing ourselves.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And was that particular deal, is the SBA backing the money that Citizens is putting up, or Citizens is just coming out the gate and just financing it?
Citizens come out the gate with
so the SBA is not even involved at all.
Well, it's the Citizens is accessing the SBA.
Okay, so it is backed.
Yeah,
right,
it is backed.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we might be able to talk about SBA tomorrow because that's something that a lot of people don't have a full understanding of what SBA is. Because SBA essentially, without going into too much details, kind of like insurance for banks. Really, it's not their own funding. It's, hey, we'll guarantee that this amount of money for this particular borrower, but that borrower's got to go get the rest, right? Which is, it sounds like that $100,000. So
yep.
But yeah, no, there's just, like I said, we can sit here and talk all night. There's so many just creative ways of going about accomplishing your goals.
Completely.
Right? Starting, growing, scaling, acquiring, merging, expanding, opening up franchises. Guys, like really, whatever it is that you want to do, we have a solution for it, right? And that's something that I always say. Like when people ask me, like, "Yo, Lamar, what do you do?" Like, and I sometimes get offended when people call me the funding guy or the credit guy or the repair guy. And I know people are just like trying to like refer clients or like, oh, look, like Lamar's the credit repair guy, he's the funding guy, he's the he can secure you the bag, blah blah blah. And it's cool, but I always, once I get on people, I tell people like, hey, I know he said I'm the funding guy, I'm the credit guy. I'm not real big on titles. It's very simple, right? I run a solutions-based business. If you have a problem, I more than likely have a solution. And if I don't have a solution, then I know somebody else that does, right? So, and Johnny's been touching on it throughout this entire podcast, right? We're solution-based companies providing solutions to people that have problems, that have struggles, or that have goals in mind. And that's what it's about, and that's all we're doing, right? Yep. We're offering up solutions. And sometimes it might not be what you think we typically do. There might be a better solution, right? And that's what we are also about. Not so much what's best for us and our company or what's best for you and your company or what's best for our pockets, but what's best for you. Like I said earlier, we're about making sure people are in a better position than how we found them and that we set them up for success. Yes. What is the best way to do that? To make sure that the solutions we're providing them is going to make them, not break them, right? Which, another rabbit hole I can go down is into the other side of this space and the companies that do that, but we won't do that. So
I was going to say, hey, there's a lot of people that is doing their best to keep up with the type of solutions that we offer, because it takes a very strong team. It takes people like Lamar that is willing to put everything on the line. And that's one thing I do appreciate about you, Lamar. Like you dig really deep in terms of building relationships with banks, with the right people, to staying very current on how the industry is operating. The financial industry is changing all the time. I mean, we've seen the last couple of years that I've been working, alongside of you that, there's multiple multiple ways that the financial industry has adjusted in terms of lending products and how to access certain funds and how to reposition. And, so to stay on top of those types of ways on how the banks are adjusting so we could best set up our clients for their best interest in mind. There's a lot of times where clients are looking for funds and I'm like, all right, well, why do you want to get a personal loan to do that? Like you could access financing in this way, access financing in this way,
And that's why it's important, guys, whenever you are looking at things like this, can you figure all this stuff out on your own? Absolutely. You can, right? You can go through YouTube University. You can purchase, some ebooks and some courses and whatever and learn a lot. But what's so unique about what we do is not only do we have the information, you can go find the information, but what you get when you work with people like us, whether it's my company, whether it's Jonny, whether it's us as individuals, is the experience, right? And not only just the experience, but we have the creative. We have the creative thinking down to a science to where, like, hey, again, we're gonna know exactly what is the best way for you to go about the thing it is that you're trying to do, right? It might not be what you think at first, like a personal loan. It might not be taking out equity in your home. It might not be, business funding, etc. So that's what you get when you're working with professionals that, again, like we talked about earlier, are doing it for ourselves. So we're a representation of the service that we provide.
Yep.
But also just the fact that, again, this is what we do day in and day out, right? Every day. This is our main things for both of us. We have other projects and other investments, and that's what it's about, right? You create multiple streams of income. Yep. Wealth is, the average millionaire, billionaire, whatever, has 7 streams of income, blah, 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 which you don't want to get too hung up in the beginning. Yeah. I think you could probably attest to this.
Completely.
We heard that very early on and thought, okay, we need to go make 7 streams of income. And then you realize, like, oh, crap, like,
out. None of them work.
None of them working. So you definitely got to focus on one thing first, get that to a point where it's making money and then focus on the next thing, get that to a point where it's making money, right? And then you build from there. But the point that I'm making is, working with people like us and our companies is we're going to shorten the learning curve, right? You're going to get the best solution that is available to you, and you're going to get the experience and the knowledge that we have been able to acquire through the fact that we've worked with hundreds and sometimes thousands of people that are looking to do the same thing as you, right? So we have that data, if you will, right? There might be someone else out there just like you that we've already helped trying to do the same thing that you're doing. Completely. That we can provide insights on past the borrowing money aspect. Yep. Like maybe there's certain things that you haven't thought about. Maybe there's certain things that, maybe you might need a little bit more than what you're asking for. And because you need more, this is why we need to do it this way, right? So I just wanted to kind of like throw that out there. I'm all for educating people and helping them learn and understand. And that's why I say, like, when people work with us, we do a great job at educating people as well. But just make sure, again, this stuff is it can be scary, and it can go left really fast. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. You're getting your information from the right resources, right? And you're working with people that are, or the information you're the information you're grabbing from people is people that are doing this every single day, right? All the time, tons of experience, tons of results, tons of testimonials, tons of clients, tons of reviews, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Because not everything that you're looking for is going to be behind that ebook or in that class or in that mentorship that you're paying for, right? There's nothing like just getting that hands-on experience, having someone like holding your hand, looking over your shoulder, that's looking out for your best interests.
Completely.
Right.
Yeah. I like to give go ahead. Do you want
to? No, you're good.
Yeah. I like to give people the example. It's like something like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has a high level of a skill set, but no one said, hey, Michael Jordan, here's a book on basketball. Hey, read this book and good luck out there. Like, nah, man, Kobe, Jordan, until they stop playing the game, they forever had a coach. So it doesn't matter how talented you are, right? It doesn't matter how great you are, right? To have someone alongside that could share other ideas, give other input, or that could help you see things in ways that you can't is invaluable in itself.
Did I just hear you say, compare us to the Michael Jordans of
Yeah,
finance?
Finance, yeah, completely. I would definitely say improve you what we do as an organization. The Michael Jordan of finance. Yep. Mic drop.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, that's all. I was like, yeah, I think where we're at it. Well, brother, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you being here. I'm looking forward for us to rock out tomorrow and to continue going next level, man. I'm very honored to be alongside of you on this road.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you for having me. I think we had a great conversation, and we should do this more often, man.
Yeah, I agree.
We might have to throw this up somewhere on the site somewhere.
Yeah,
I think we could do that.
Yeah.
But cheers, brother.
Salud.
Salute.
Mm-hmm.